Hey, everybody. It's such a privilege to be here and really excited to be in front of this audience. I was telling my wife, I said, can you, in your wildest dreams, can you imagine I'd get an opportunity to speak in front of all these incredible mission-focused leaders? And she said, no, honey, you're not in my wildest dreams. So anyway, I've been asked to talk about what is the framework that we use to identify and invest in AI businesses. And really that framework is the same framework that we've used to invest in a variety of companies in the technology world. And I'll talk about that in a second. We call it the 5 Ps: people, product, potential, predictability, and purpose. But in general, what we're looking for is identifying situations where there's a problem. The bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity. That's what entrepreneurs do, is they solve problems. And what we know is there's a lot of problems out there. The world's on fire. We got war in Iran. We got a war in Gaza. We've got anti-Semitism is at nearly 50-year high. We got still ongoing war in the Ukraine. We also have 3 million people die every year due to lack of access to clean water. 9 million people die a year from starving to death. There's 773 million people that can't read in the world, adults. The UN's identified these issues for the sustainability of our planet, serious things, no poverty, zero hunger, good health, and so forth. I mean, these are significant problems facing the future of mankind. One of the things that I look at is education is really kind of a key of solving all those problems. And entrepreneurs are going to be critical at how we address these biggest issues facing our future. Other issues, 81% of people prefer not to date somebody who's in a different political party than them. That compares to 23% of Americans who won't date somebody because of their religion, 15% of people that won't date somebody of a different race. We saw this statistic yesterday. You got about a quarter of people actually have a relationship with a robot. There's 2.7 billion Christians in the world. That means there's over 5 billion people who aren't. And what entrepreneurs do is they solve problems, either solve a problem or fill a need. And so, again, that's the critical element of what we look for, where you're solving a problem or you're filling a need. And it's exciting to be an entrepreneur. I love being around entrepreneurs. We love funding entrepreneurs. I look at myself and consider myself an entrepreneur. But the fact of the matter is, it's hard to be an entrepreneur, and there's some very critical facts that you need to appreciate if you're going to be an entrepreneur. Every day in America, 1,100 new businesses are formed. Every day in America, 1,100 businesses fail. There's only a 20% chance of a company surviving its first 3 years. In 2025, venture capitalists invested in 12,000 companies. Most of those were AI companies, by the way. In 2025, just 34 venture-backed companies went public. If you're an entrepreneur, you have 70% more likely to have a heart attack, you're 2 times more likely to get divorced, and you're 3 times more likely to go bankrupt. What kind of nut would start a business? See if you can name this nut, okay? Lost his job in 32, defeated in a race for the state legislature in 32, failed in business in 33, he had a nervous breakdown in 41, defeated in races for Congress in 43, Senate in 55, Vice President in 56, and Senate in 58. And the answer is Abraham Lincoln, arguably our greatest president, 16th president of the United States. See if you can name these nuts. Ready? Teachers told him he was too stupid to learn anything. He was fired from his first 2 jobs for lack of productivity. This is Thomas Edison, the inventor of the electric light bulb and many other inventions. He said, success is 99% perspiration, 1% inspiration. Original General Electric, $300 billion in market cap. So this entrepreneur had his first JV partner dropped him, and then that partner sued him. His second partner did the same thing. First bank cut him off. Second bank had the FBI investigate him for fraud. 2 creditors showed up at his office the same day. He spent the whole day keeping them from each other so they didn't know that they were both after the same thing. U.S. Customs slapped him with a $10 million bill when he had no money in the bank. And then he got his break and got a star to endorse his product. And no sooner after he got the star to endorse his product, that star died in a tragic car accident. And then through hustle, got the second person to endorse his product. And then Global TV, the person he had got the endorsement actually wore another company's product that was Phil Knight at Nike, Just Do It, $65 billion market cap. So this is Fred Smith, who for a senior project at Yale University is doing a thesis to start a business. And he had this outline for this delivery company, what became known as Federal Express. His Yale instructor gave him a C on the paper. It's a good thing he didn't listen because his instructor told him to actually get a better grade. Your idea had to be practical. And so good thing that Fred Smith didn't listen to his Yale instructor and in fact started Federal Express. And like many new ventures, it took more time and took more money. And so he's out of cash. He had $5,000 in the bank account. His investors wouldn't fund him anymore. And so he did what any great entrepreneur would do. He went to Las Vegas, took that $5,000 over the weekend, played blackjack, won $27,000, and Federal Express flew Monday morning, literally doing whatever it takes. Federal Express, the $85 billion market cap today. Other thing you gotta appreciate as an entrepreneur and as an investor is things change. So if you're making a decision based on what you see reality today, one thing we know for sure is that's gonna change. And so just to see how things change, they can change an awful lot over time. The United States, when it was formed, was basically the East Coast without Florida. To go from the East Coast to the West Coast would take a generation, and you'd lose half your travel party. Today, when you go from New York to San Francisco, it takes 6 hours, and if your Wi-Fi doesn't work, you're pissed off, right? Let's take a look at this picture. So this is the Tour de France 100 years ago. Because 100 years ago, it was thought that smoking cigarettes would enhance your athletic performance. This is Henry Ford, who was the Elon Musk or Steve Jobs of his day. And Detroit was the place where the people with ambition went because that's where the future was being created. So 100 years ago, we're in this hotel, looked like this. In Silicon Valley was apricot and apple orchards. And the farm nobody knew about, who was east of the Mississippi River. Today, obviously, Silicon Valley is this amazing place where the future is being created with companies like Intel and Apple and Google, literally and all within 5 miles of where we're at right here. This is Gordon Moore, who perhaps is one of the greatest change agents in history. So 60 years ago, Gordon Moore had this idea that became known as Moore's Law. Computing power is going to double every couple of years. And what's so amazing about Moore's Law is not just that this actually happened, basically transforming not just the world technology, but the world as we know it. But Moore's Law wasn't a scientific law, it wasn't a physical law, it was basically Gordon Moore imposing his will upon this industry and making this all happen. And the result of Moore's Law is just even the last 25 years, the cost of computing through Moore's Law is down 99%. Cost of storage is basically free. If the automobile industry would have that same type of progress, a Ford Taurus that cost $20,000 in 1990 would cost less than $1 today. You need to throw it away after you used it. In 2007, just 19 years ago, the market cap for BlackBerry, remember BlackBerry? Research, Crackberry, they call it. People are so addicted to it, right? Well, had the same exact market cap as Apple. And so obviously, the last 19 years has seen a radical divergence between the two, with Apple, the $3.8 trillion market cap, and BlackBerry being less than $2 billion. And the innovation that Steve Jobs really had was this App Store, right? This is St. Peter's Square in 2005. Take a close look at it. Got it? This is what St. Peter's Square looks like today. So obviously the change that's happened is everybody with a phone has become a digital photographer. And what's so amazing is Kodak, that actually had the patent for digital photography, went bankrupt in the same environment where this explosion of photography happened. Just a statistic of how digital media has transformed people's life, and this should say 10 years ago, people on average spend 13 hours a week on digital media. Today it's 13 hours a day. In 2000, today, there's 3.3 billion gamers around the world. $200 billion spent on gaming. So all this is just context, like how things change and how that factors into just thinking about what the future might look like. In 2004, the average attention span was 150 seconds. What do you think it is today? 8 seconds. A goldfish is 9 seconds. So this is perhaps the most important chart that you've all seen, which is the adoption of ChatGPT is the fastest adoption of any technology in history. And so what we say about AI, and this is where change and problems and opportunities are, I mean, you can't see it any more visibly than this, is that AI is like air. It's invisible, it's ubiquitous, and you're gonna need it to live. So what does AI do? AI manufactures time. Years become months, what took months becomes weeks, what took weeks takes days, what took days takes hours, what took hours takes minutes, what took minutes takes seconds. So one of the opportunities that we see with this the manufacturing of time is what I call multiplication by division. So Adam Smith, in his pin factory in The Wealth of Nations, talked about how you create a greater productivity by effectively separating tasks and getting expertise. And from that, the pin factory became 50 times more productive. We see that same type of evolution happen with AI, where AI is going to win all day long in left brain activities, logical, analytical, linear, but where humans can thrive is right brain activities, creative, intuitive, artistic, nonverbal, emotional, imaginative. Other ways that we think AI is incredibly exciting is taking basically not just the wisdom of crowds, but the wisdom of an organization in real time and be able to apply it to opportunities and applications. Everything becomes moneyballed. We've seen this chart, human capabilities on a linear curve, computers on an exponential curve, and we're here. What does this mean? This means that it's not just blue-collar jobs that are being eliminated, not just white-collar jobs, it's also no-collar jobs. And again, in many cases, I think these jobs, loss of jobs is always going to be something where you got to be sensitive to. There's jobs that, frankly, are way better to be done by a machine and much more humane. And there's some jobs that are never going to be changed, like the empathy that a nurse shows. And so I like to say is that a horse that can count to 10 is a remarkable horse, but it's not a remarkable mathematician. And as we think about how this all plays out with the combination of humans and machine, we think what's exciting to me is the explosion of innovation and creativity that's going to be enhanced by the machine is like nothing we've ever seen before. So as we think about how this all gets built up, your software codifies knowledge, AI layer makes knowledge intelligent, and then you got human intelligence upon it. And so my friend Mark Andreessen said that software has eaten the world, and it has, but the AI is its teeth, but humans decide what to eat. My friend Bill Campbell, who we call the coach of Silicon Valley, who passed away 10 years ago this month, and was a major, major influence in terms of what happened to the Valley, said, when we have facts, we use facts. When we have opinions, we use mine. And again, I think what humans are going to be able to do is be able to use their critical thinking and judgment and everything else upon this incredible information synthesis that AI is able to provide. So the more content becomes AI generated, the more it becomes a commodity. The best opportunities will always be on the edge. It's not man versus machine, it's man and machine. So for 30 years, it was a revenge of the nerds, which is basically these technical skills and codifying skills was everything. As we look ahead, we really think it's back to the future, and the skills, the Renaissance skills of critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, cultural fluency, character. These are all the characteristics that we think are going to be integrated to create these amazing businesses that are going to transform our world with this powerful transformative technology. So just kind of wrapping up, 250 years ago, Adam Smith wrote The Wealth of Nations, which basically was the thesis about how capitalism worked, which is if you aligned economic incentives with what the behavior you wanted to have as outcome, this invisible hand kind of magically guided people towards these objectives. And so, that was pretty incredible, and it's really been the biggest change, in terms of human quality of life and so forth, and growth of countries' income. It's been amazing. The same year, Thomas Jefferson wrote in the Declaration of Independence that everybody had this inalienable right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. A lot of people don't know that George Washington, in his inauguration address in 1789, talked about a different type of invisible hand. He said that what people were really motivated by was a sense of providence and meaning and purpose. And what they were motivated by was what they were doing actually felt like it was making a difference beyond just themselves. And so if you look what's happening around the world today, and back to problems and opportunities and about to missional AI businesses and so forth, 54% of Gen Z has a negative view of capitalism. About 51% of them have a positive view on socialism. 67% of young Brits want socialism, and they're getting it. And obviously you've seen what's happened in New York with Zoran Mamdani and so forth. And people are saying, what's wrong with these young people? You know what's wrong with these young people? Nothing. They've been living in a world where they've been lied to and had an unfair situation, and that's the result of it. And so what's the solution? And what can entrepreneurs do? I say that, Adam Smith's invisible hand's broken. You marry that with George Washington's invisible hand, and then you have something that I think is very, very powerful. So a few years ago, me and a friend, Mike Carter, wrote a book called The Mission Corporation. And actually, I borrowed this line from my good friend, John Dennison, who's in the front. But we think the great businesses of tomorrow are going to have the ambition of a for-profit and the heart of a not-for-profit. And that's really what we're looking for. So when you say, what are we looking for and how we fund businesses? That's what we're looking for. So back to these 5 Ps, we're looking for, first and foremost, looking for great people. Winners find a way to win, people that have integrity, people that we can bet on, people that that we can count on. Product. Technology is all about disproportionate gain to a leader in a category. Potential. How big a problem are you solving? How big is this market? Predictability. What's the business model? How visible is this growth? And then last is purpose, this idea of the ambition of a for-profit, the heart of a not-for-profit, and doing what you're doing solves a problem that can make a difference for humanity. And so I call this values investing, combining purpose and profits. So we're looking to invest in smarts and hearts, finding meaning through learning, purpose through work. And so when you look at all these problems that we talked about in this brief conversation, you say okay, it's so complex, there's no silver bullet. Actually, I do think there's a silver bullet, and that's love. If we love our neighbors, we love ourselves, and that's the way that we approach these different issues. There's nothing that we can't do and combine this with this powerful new technology. And so just in summary, Mark Twain said the 2 most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. That's what I believe, and that's what I believe the opportunity is for people in this room. Make your dash count. Thank you very much.